saying she couldn't bear children, the 610 woman, yet the rancher got her pregnant. Clara Jensen had always stood out in every room she entered. At 610, she towered over almost everyone she met, and people often stared when she walked down the street. As a child, she had been tall for her age, but nothing compared to the height she eventually reached as an adult. While some might have thought her size gave her confidence, it often made her feel different and alone. Clara was used to people pointing her out or asking if she played basketball. Some meant it as a compliment, while others simply couldn't hide their surprise. For Clara, the questions and stares were constant reminders that she didn't quite fit the mold of what her small town considered normal. Her childhood had been quiet but happy. She grew up on her family's ranch, a sprawling property filled with open fields, barns, and pastures where cattle grazed under the wide blue sky. Clara loved the ranch from an early age. She spent her mornings helping her mother with chores, feeding chickens, gathering eggs, and tending to the vegetable garden. Afternoons were usually spent out in the fields with her father, learning to ride horses, mend fences, and care for the livestock. Though life on the ranch was hard work, it taught her resilience, patience, and a deep respect for the land. She loved the freedom the wide-open spaces gave her, spaces where she didn't feel out of place because of her height or her strong presence. Despite her happy childhood, Clara's adolescence brought challenges she could never have predicted. When she was a teenager, doctors discovered that she had a rare medical condition that would make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for her to have children naturally. The news hit her like a storm she hadn't seen coming. At first, she didn't understand it fully. She had always imagined herself as a mother one day, running around with little feet on the ranch, teaching her own children the same lessons her parents had taught her. But that dream suddenly seemed impossible. The doctors explained everything patiently. They said that while she might live a normal, healthy life, pregnancy was unlikely. There were medical procedures and treatments that might help, but there were no guarantees. Hearing this, Clara felt a mix of disbelief, fear, and sadness. She tried to process the news quietly, not wanting to disappoint her parents or worry her younger siblings. She poured herself into the ranch work, convincing herself that keeping busy would ease the pain. Yet deep down, the thought of never having a child lingered in her mind like a shadow she couldn't shake. As Clara grew older, she learned to accept her situation, though it was never easy. She focused on the things she could control. She became more skilled at managing the ranch, learning everything from accounting to crop planning, animal care to machinery repair. Her dedication earned her the respect of the townspeople. Many admired her not only for her height and strength, but also for her intelligence, determination, and kindness. Yet, despite her achievements, there was always a quiet part of her heart that longed for motherhood, a dream she thought she would never see come true. Life in the small town had its own rhythms. Summers were busy with harvests and county fairs, where Clara often participated in livestock competitions. Winters were quieter, spent repairing fences, tending to the barns, and caring for animals during harsh storms. She had friends, but few who truly understood what it felt like to live as someone so different from everyone else. Social events often made her feel self-conscious, not because she was shy, but because people's curiosity about her height was sometimes overwhelming. People would whisper, stare, or ask questions without thinking, and though Clara tried to shrug it off, it wasn't always easy. Despite these challenges, Clara had a strong spirit. She learned to embrace her uniqueness, finding ways to turn what others might consider a disadvantage into strength. She played sports with local youth groups, often excelling in basketball and track, though she never pursued it professionally. She volunteered to help neighbors with farm work, earning a reputation as someone reliable and hardworking. The community may have noticed her height first, but over time, they began to respect her for her abilities, her dedication, and her generous heart. Her family was her anchor. Her parents had always been supportive, encouraging her to pursue her dreams, whatever they might be. Her father, a quiet but wise man, often reminded her, "Clara, your height is what makes you special. It's your heart, your courage, and your will to keep going no matter what." Her mother, warm and nurturing, shared the wisdom of caring for others and the land, teaching her that patience and love could solve almost anything. Her siblings, though younger and sometimes mischievous, looked up to Clara, often seeking her guidance or protection. The ranch wasn't just a home, it was a place of learning, growth, and resilience. Even with her work and her family around her, Clara sometimes felt a quiet loneliness. She longed for companionship, someone who would see her for who she truly was, beyond her height, beyond her strength, and beyond her perceived limitations. She wondered if she would ever meet someone who could love her entirely, including the parts of her life that were complicated or challenging. For years, she kept these thoughts to herself, focusing on the things she could control: her work, her family, and her own personal growth. Yet, the longing for love and connection remained, quietly shaping her decisions and her dreams. One particular summer day stands out in Clara's memory. The sun was high, the sky a brilliant blue, and the ranch was alive with the sounds of animals and the wind through the fields. She was repairing a section of fence near the pasture, her hands strong and steady as she worked. As she hammered the wooden posts into place, she thought about the future. Would she ever find someone who could truly see her? Could she ever experience the joy of having a child, even if it seemed impossible? These thoughts were heavy, yet they carried a sense of hope, too. A quiet hope that maybe, one day, life would surprise her in ways she couldn't imagine. That summer, Clara had no idea that her life was about to change. A neighbor's ranch was in trouble. Livestock had gotten loose during a storm, and help was needed quickly. Little did she know, the man who would come to help that day would slowly become a significant part of her life. But for now, Clara focused on her work, on the ranch she loved, and on the quiet hope that someday, the life she imagined for herself might still be possible. Her story was only beginning, and though the path ahead was uncertain, Clara's strength, resilience, and heart would guide her through the challenges she had yet to face. The summer sun had barely risen when Clara heard the rumble of an unfamiliar truck down the dirt road leading to her family's ranch. She wiped her hands on her overalls and squinted toward the horizon, curious. The vehicle stopped near the barn, kicking up a small cloud of dust, and a man stepped out. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a rugged look that spoke of someone used to hard work. His name, she would soon learn, was Sam Whitaker. He was a neighboring rancher, called in by her father after a storm had scattered part of the cattle herd the night before. Clara had seen ranchers before, of course, and she had met plenty of men in town, but there was something about Sam that immediately caught her attention. He carried himself with a quiet confidence, calm but not overbearing. His clothes were practical, worn jeans, a plaid shirt rolled up to the elbows, and dusty boots, but they fit him in a way that suggested someone who respected his work and took pride in it. When he extended his hand to introduce himself, Clara noticed the firm grip, the kind of handshake that conveyed reliability. She introduced herself in return, and for a moment they simply looked at each other, sizing one another up in a silent, unspoken acknowledgement of shared experience and strength. Her father immediately set him to work. The storm had caused more damage than they initially thought. Fences were down, a few gates were loose, and some cattle had wandered farther than usual. Clara grabbed her gloves and joined Sam in the fields. At first, their conversation was practical, filled with instructions, observations about the livestock, and technical details about the ranch. But as they worked side by side, a kind of rhythm developed. Clara noticed Sam's easy humor and the way he treated the animals with care and respect. He didn't rush, didn't act as though the work was beneath him and didn't try to impress her. Instead, he simply did the job, steady and dependable. By mid-morning, the sun had climbed higher and sweat beaded on their foreheads. Clara and Sam paused near the barn to rest. She offered him some water from her canteen, and they sat on a fence rail, catching their breath. That pause marked the first time they spoke about something other than ranch work. Sam asked her about her life on the ranch, and Clara found herself talking more openly than she usually did with strangers. She spoke about the early mornings, the long days, and the satisfaction that came from caring for the land and animals. She even shared some of the struggles she faced growing up, the loneliness she sometimes felt, and the dreams she had quietly held onto, one she thought might never come true. Sam listened attentively, never interrupting, only nodding in understanding. His calm presence made it easy for her to speak. There was no judgment in his eyes, no pity, only genuine interest and respect. For the first time in years, Clara felt seen, as though someone was noticing not just her height or her unusual presence, but her thoughts, her feelings, and her life. When she finished talking, Sam offered words of encouragement that felt surprisingly personal. "It sounds like you've worked harder than most people I know. Anyone who can handle this life as you do deserves a lot of respect." The simplicity of the compliment caught her off guard, and she felt a warmth in her chest, a quiet recognition that maybe not all people viewed her as different or intimidating. The days that followed were spent in similar rhythm. Sam came to help with repairs, and every day brought new opportunities to work together, side by side. Clara noticed small things about him: how he remembered the names of all the cattle, how he could anticipate their movements, how he remained calm even when a cow slipped or a fence post threatened to fall. She also noticed the subtle ways he looked at her, the way he smiled when she made a joke, the quiet attentiveness that seemed to make her feel safe and understood. Their conversations grew more personal over time. They spoke about childhood dreams, favorite books, and even the small frustrations of running a ranch. Sam shared his own struggles, family responsibilities, financial worries, and the stress of unpredictable weather. Clara found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone in years. She realized that for the first time, she was enjoying not just his company, but the feeling of being understood. They laughed together over small accidents, like when a cow got its head stuck in a fence, or when Clara accidentally spilled a bucket of water on Sam while trying to be helpful. Those moments, filled with laughter and shared effort, brought them closer than either of them expected. One evening, after a long day of repairs, they found themselves sitting on the porch of the barn, watching the sun sink behind the hills. The air was warm but gentle, and the world seemed quiet except for the distant lowing of the cattle. Clara noticed how natural it felt to be near Sam, how comfortable it was to talk and sit in silence alike. She realized she was starting to feel something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years, an attraction mixed with admiration and trust. It was both exciting and terrifying. She reminded herself of her past fears, of the impossibility of having children, of the long-held loneliness she had accepted. Yet, sitting there, she couldn't deny the spark of connection. The following weeks brought more work and more moments of connection. Clara began looking forward to Sam's visits, not just for the help he provided, but for the conversations, the shared meals, and the quiet companionship. Sam, too, seemed to enjoy the time, often staying longer than necessary, helping with tasks that didn't require another pair of hands, simply to be near her. They learned each other's habits, preferences, and little quirks. Clara noticed how he always left the barn as tidy as he found it, how he drank his coffee black, and how he had a fondness for old country songs played softly on the radio while they worked. Despite the growing closeness, Clara remained guarded. She had long feared that revealing her infertility or her deepest vulnerabilities might drive someone away. She kept parts of herself hidden, even from Sam, afraid of being judged or pitied. Yet the more time they spent together, the more she realized that Sam was different from anyone she had known. He didn't seem to care about what made her different. He valued her for who she was, her strength, her mind, and her heart. Slowly, Clara allowed herself to hope that perhaps love wasn't entirely out of reach, that companionship and connection could exist even for someone like her. One particularly challenging day tested both their skills and their trust. A section of the pasture fence had collapsed completely, leaving a group of cows free and wandering dangerously close to the road. Clara and Sam worked from dawn to dusk, coordinating their efforts, running back and forth, guiding the animals and repairing the fence. By evening, they were exhausted, covered in sweat and dirt, but the fence was finally secure. They collapsed onto the hay bales in the barn, laughing at their own tiredness. It was in those moments of shared struggle and accomplishment that Clara began to understand the depth of her feelings. She admired Sam not just for his skill and strength, but for his patience, calmness, and integrity. And she realized that perhaps Sam saw her in the same way, not as someone too tall or too different, but as a capable, strong, and remarkable person. As the summer continued, their bond deepened. Clara found herself sharing more about her life, her family, and even her fears. Sam listened without judgment, offering comfort, understanding, and a sense of security that Clara had rarely felt before. The ranch, once a place of work and routine, became a space where connection and trust flourished. Every fence repaired, every cow guided back to the pasture, and every shared meal strengthened their friendship and slowly, but surely, planted the seeds of something more. Clara didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if Sam felt the same way she did, or if this connection would survive the challenges that life inevitably brought. But she began to understand one thing clearly. Sometimes, the most meaningful relationships began not with grand gestures or instant attraction, but with patience, shared effort, and mutual respect. And as she watched the sun set over the hills, the ranch bathed in golden light, Clara felt a quiet hope stirring inside her. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine the possibility of love, not the fleeting, uncertain kind, but a love rooted in understanding, trust, and genuine connection. Little did Clara know, the summer that began with a simple call for help would mark the start of a relationship that would change her life forever. Sam's presence, patience, and understanding would gradually break down the walls she had built around her heart. And though challenges remained, both in her life and on the ranch, Clara began to feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. The excitement and nervous anticipation of discovering that perhaps, just perhaps, life still had unexpected joys to offer. As summer slowly shifted toward fall, the days grew shorter, and the air carried a faint chill. Clara and Sam had been spending almost every day together, repairing fences, tending to the livestock, and managing the endless tasks of ranch life. Their friendship had deepened into something neither of them fully understood yet. It was more than companionship. There was a connection that went beyond shared work and casual conversation. But Clara still carried a secret she feared could change everything: her infertility. Despite how natural it felt to be around Sam, the thought of revealing her medical condition made her stomach tighten. She had kept it hidden for years, not just from men she had dated, but even from friends in town. The fear wasn't just about rejection. It was about being seen differently, as if a fundamental part of her worth was missing. She had learned to live with the thought quietly, burying it beneath her daily life on the ranch, yet it lingered like a quiet shadow. She knew that if she wanted a real relationship with Sam, she would eventually have to confront the truth. But the idea terrified her. One late afternoon, the two of them were mending a section of fence near the eastern pasture, where the wind blew strong across the hills. The task was difficult. Some of the posts had rotted in the storm, and the terrain was uneven. As they worked, Sam leaned over to hammer a post into place, brushing against her accidentally. Clara felt a sudden jolt of nervous energy, her heart beating faster than it had in years. She realized, with a mix of excitement and fear, that she was developing feelings for Sam she couldn't ignore. And yet, the secret she carried made her hesitate. How could she let someone get close to her if she couldn't give them the possibility of a family? Their days became a delicate balance of closeness and restraint. Clara found herself studying Sam's gestures, the way he laughed at small jokes, the gentle way he handled the livestock, and the patience he showed when things went wrong. She admired his calmness and the quiet confidence he carried. But at the same time, she struggled with a growing anxiety, knowing that one day she would have to tell him the truth about her infertility. Every smile, every moment of shared laughter, and every touch filled her with both hope and fear. The turning point came unexpectedly. A sudden storm rolled in one evening, dark clouds swallowing the sun. The wind picked up and rain began to pour, soaking the pasture and the barns. Clara was in the barn when she heard Sam's voice calling her. One of the cows had broken free, slipping through the weakened fence, and Sam had gone after it. Clara grabbed her coat and ran through the wind and rain to help. By the time she reached him, he was struggling to keep the cow from running onto the road. Without thinking, Clara joined him, her strength and height helping guide the frightened animal back toward the pen. The storm raged around them, and for the first time they were alone together, soaked and exhausted. The adrenaline of the moment left them both breathless, and when they finally secured the cow, they laughed, a mixture of relief and disbelief at the chaos they had just survived. As they caught their breath, Sam looked at her with a kind of intensity Clara hadn't seen before. He thanked her, his voice soft but serious. "I don't know what I would have done without you," he said. His words weren't just about the cow, they carried something more, something deeper. Clara felt her heart swell, but at the same time, fear tightened around her chest. She knew the moment had arrived when she could no longer avoid her truth. That night after the storm had passed and the ranch was quiet, Clara sat in the barn, staring at the hay bales and trying to find the courage to speak. Sam, noticing her silence, approached and sat beside her. "You've been quiet today," he said gently. Clara shook her head, unsure how to start. Finally, her voice trembling slightly, she admitted the truth. "Sam, there's something I need to tell you. I was told a long time ago that I might not be able to have children." The words hung in the air, heavy with fear and uncertainty. Clara braced herself, expecting a reaction of pity or disappointment, but Sam didn't flinch. Instead, he reached out and took her hand, holding it firmly. "Clara," he said, "that doesn't change how I feel about you. I like you for who you are, not for what you can or cannot do. We'll face everything together, whatever comes." Hearing this, Clara felt a mixture of relief and disbelief. For years, she had feared that revealing her infertility would end any chance of love. But Sam's response, calm and unwavering, made her heart soften. In that moment, she realized that he truly saw her for who she was, not just her height, her strength, or her abilities on the ranch, but her heart, her resilience, and her humanity. Even with this reassurance, their relationship wasn't without challenges. Clara had spent so many years protecting herself emotionally that letting someone in fully was unfamiliar and frightening. There were moments when doubt crept back in, when she wondered if Sam's feelings would last, or if the reality of their situation would become too much. She also worried about what life would look like moving forward. Could they manage the ranch together, face medical uncertainties, and maintain a strong relationship in a small town where everyone knew everyone else's business? Sam, for his part, was patient and understanding. He never pressured her or made her feel guilty for her fears. Instead, he matched her cautiousness with his steady presence, offering reassurance through actions as well as words. He helped her with the ranch work, shared meals with her family, and showed genuine interest in every aspect of her life. Slowly, Clara learned to trust not just his words but his actions, realizing that love wasn't just about passion. It was about commitment, patience, and shared effort. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Sam invited Clara to take a walk through the pasture. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of earth and grass after the recent rain. They walked side by side in comfortable silence, their hands occasionally brushing. Clara felt a surge of emotion, fear, hope, excitement, and a quiet sense of peace all mingling together. It was in these small, unremarkable moments that their bond grew strongest, built on trust, mutual respect, and shared experiences rather than dramatic declarations. Yet, even with the deepening connection, Clara struggled with her fears. She worried about the possibility of heartbreak, the unpredictability of life, and the long-held dream of motherhood that seemed out of reach. Every time she looked at Sam, she wondered if she could truly allow herself to hope. But she also recognized something important. Life often surprises us, and the people who matter most are those who stand by us, even when the future is uncertain. The turning point of their relationship didn't come from a grand gesture or a dramatic moment. It came from their ability to face challenges together, to share vulnerabilities, and to trust one another. That stormy evening, the confession about her infertility and Sam's calm, unwavering response marked a pivotal moment. Clara realized that the walls she had built around her heart were beginning to crumble, not because she was forcing herself to change, but because someone had shown her that love could exist even with fears, doubts, and imperfections. In the weeks that followed, their relationship grew stronger. They continued to work side by side on the ranch, but now there was a deeper emotional connection underpinning every shared task. Clara found herself laughing more freely, sharing her thoughts without hesitation, and allowing herself to feel hope again. Sam, in turn, demonstrated through small acts, fixing broken gates, helping with chores, sharing meals, that he was committed to being part of her life, regardless of obstacles. Clara began to understand that real love wasn't about perfection or meeting certain expectations. It was about honesty, support, and the willingness to face life's challenges together. She realized that her fears, though real, didn't have to define her happiness. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future with someone who truly understood and valued her. The turning point had come, not with a dramatic declaration or sudden event, but with the quiet, powerful realization that trust and love could overcome fear. Clara and Sam's bond had reached a depth that neither could ignore. It wasn't just attraction or companionship anymore. It was something enduring, built on respect, shared effort, and the courage to be vulnerable. Clara went to bed that night feeling a mix of emotions: relief, hope, excitement, and a cautious optimism about the future. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone. She had someone by her side who saw her, accepted her, and believed in her. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she had taken the first step toward opening her heart fully. And that step, small as it seemed, marked a turning point that would shape the rest of her life. After the stormy evening and the heartfelt conversation that revealed Clara's secret, life on the ranch seemed both brighter and more complicated. Clara felt a lightness in her chest that had been absent for years. She no longer carried the same quiet fear of rejection, and Sam's steady presence made her feel safe in ways she had never known. Yet, as life settled back into its usual rhythm, new challenges began to emerge. Love, she discovered, was not just about feelings. It was also about navigating the practical and emotional struggles of everyday life. The first challenge came in the form of uncertainty about the future. Clara loved the ranch and the independence it provided, but she also wanted companionship beyond the daily tasks. She worried about what life with Sam would really mean. Could two independent people manage not only their feelings but also the demands of the ranch? What would it be like to share every decision, every responsibility, every disappointment? These questions weighed on her, even as she enjoyed the closeness they shared. Sam, for his part, sensed her hesitation. He never pressured her, but he often initiated conversations about the future, carefully asking her thoughts and respecting her boundaries. Their routine together was both comforting and demanding. Every day brought new responsibilities: repairing fences, feeding the animals, tending to crops, and maintaining equipment. The physical labor was relentless, but it also became a space where their bond grew stronger. They shared the heavy work, laughed at mistakes, and celebrated small victories together. Yet, the demanding nature of ranch life left little room for reflection, and Clara sometimes felt torn between her love for the work and the desire to focus on her growing feelings for Sam. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Clara sat by the barn, reflecting on her life. She realized that even though she had shared her secret with Sam and felt accepted, the deep-seated fears about her infertility still lingered. She wondered if one day it would come between them, or if the longing for a family might create tension between them. These thoughts made her anxious, but she also recognized that Sam's patience and understanding were unlike anything she had experienced before. His presence was steady, reliable, and unwavering, a rare combination that made her believe that perhaps they could navigate life's uncertainties together. As the weeks passed, Clara and Sam grew more comfortable with intimacy, though it remained gentle and cautious. They shared quiet evenings on the porch, talking about dreams, memories, and small details of their days. Clara learned about Sam's childhood, the responsibilities he had carried from a young age, and the quiet sacrifices he had made to keep his family's ranch running. Sam, in turn, learned about her life growing up on her own family ranch, the challenges of feeling different, and the resilience that had shaped her character. Their conversations were honest and deep, often stretching late into the night. It was in these moments that Clara began to understand that true connection required vulnerability, trust, and mutual respect. Yet, life continued to test them. One particularly cold morning, a section of the fence in the northern pasture had collapsed under the weight of heavy snow. A small group of cattle had wandered dangerously close to the road. Clara and Sam worked together to round up the animals, but the process was stressful and exhausting. The physical challenge was compounded by worry. What if a cow escaped or got hurt? What if they made a mistake? Through it all, they relied on each other's skills and strength, communicating with patience and calmness. The experience reminded Clara that trust wasn't just about feelings. It was also about relying on someone in moments of pressure, and she realized how much she valued Sam's presence in her life. As the seasons changed, so did the depth of their relationship. Clara began to see Sam not just as a friend or helper, but as a partner in every sense of the word. She admired his work ethic, his calm approach to challenges, and his ability to remain steady under pressure. At the same time, she became more aware of her own strengths and vulnerabilities. She realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about accepting each other's imperfections, supporting one another, and growing together. This understanding gave her courage and helped her face some of the insecurities that had haunted her for years. Despite the growing closeness, Clara's fear of infertility still cast a shadow. There were quiet moments when she wondered if she would ever experience the joy of motherhood. She had imagined it for so long, and the thought of it remaining out of reach was painful. Sam noticed her moments of quiet reflection and gently encouraged her to share her feelings. "You don't have to carry everything alone," he said one evening. "We can face this together. Whatever comes, we'll find a way." His words, simple yet sincere, gave her hope. For the first time, she felt that she didn't have to bear her fears in isolation, that love could truly be a partnership in every sense. Their relationship also faced external pressures. The small town was full of opinions, and neighbors often speculated about their growing closeness. While most were supportive, some couldn't hide their curiosity or skepticism. Clara, who had long been sensitive to others' judgments because of her height and unique presence, struggled with the unwanted attention. Sam, however, remained her anchor. He didn't dismiss her feelings but offered reassurance through his words and actions, reminding her that their bond was what mattered most. Over time, Clara learned to prioritize her own happiness over the whispers of others, drawing strength from Sam's unwavering support. As winter approached, the ranch faced additional challenges. Harsh weather tested their skills, endurance, and patience. Snowstorms made roads impassable, livestock required extra care, and equipment often failed at critical moments. Through these trials, Clara and Sam relied on one another more than ever. They learned to communicate clearly, to anticipate each other's needs, and to find moments of humor amidst the stress. The shared responsibility created a sense of teamwork and deepened their connection. They realized that love was not just about affection. It was about facing life's difficulties together, side by side. One particularly memorable evening, after a long day of hard work in freezing temperatures, Clara and Sam sat in front of the fireplace in the barn. The warmth of the flames contrasted sharply with the cold outside. They shared a simple meal of bread, cheese, and hot tea, laughing about the day's mishaps, slipping on ice, chasing a runaway cow, and accidentally knocking over a feed bucket. In these quiet, domestic moments, Clara felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. She realized that love was not always about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Sometimes, it was found in shared work, shared meals, and the quiet comfort of knowing someone truly cared. As winter deepened, Clara began to imagine a future with Sam. She pictured mornings spent tending the livestock together, evenings by the fireplace, and the possibility of building a life rooted in trust, love, and partnership. Yet, she remained realistic. Life was unpredictable, and challenges would continue to arise. She also acknowledged her fears about infertility, but instead of letting them dominate her thoughts, she learned to accept them as part of her journey. Sam's patience, understanding, and unwavering support gave her confidence that they could face whatever life brought together. Through these months, Clara also experienced personal growth. She became more confident in her abilities, more open in expressing her feelings, and more willing to embrace vulnerability. She realized that true strength wasn't about hiding fears or carrying burdens alone. It was about trusting someone enough to share them. Sam's presence encouraged this growth, showing her that love was not a weakness, but a source of strength. Their relationship had evolved from friendship to something deeper, built on mutual respect, shared experience, and the courage to face life's uncertainties together. By the time the first signs of spring appeared, Clara and Sam had forged a bond that was resilient, practical, and emotionally rich. They had faced storms, physical challenges, personal fears, and societal pressures, yet their connection had grown stronger through it all. Clara had learned that love required patience, compromise, and the willingness to confront one's fears. She had discovered that partnership meant supporting each other through both triumphs and setbacks, and that the strongest relationships were those built on trust, respect, and shared effort. The experiences of these months left a lasting impact on Clara. She felt more grounded, more confident, and more open to the possibilities of life. She had learned that challenges, whether emotional, physical, or societal, did not have to define her happiness. With Sam by her side, she felt capable of facing whatever the future held. And as the snow melted and green shoots began to appear in the pastures, Clara allowed herself to dream again, not just of love, but of a life filled with hope, partnership, and the possibility of new beginnings. Through shared struggles, quiet victories, and deepening emotional connection, Clara and Sam discovered that love was not about perfection or easy circumstances. It was about trust, resilience, and the willingness to face life together, no matter what challenges arose. And for Clara, who had once felt isolated and uncertain, the experience was transformative. She realized that happiness and fulfillment were possible, not because life had become perfect, but because she had found someone willing to walk alongside her. Through every storm and every calm, spring had arrived at the ranch, painting the pastures in shades of green and filling the air with the scent of fresh grass and blooming flowers. For Clara and Sam, it was a season of hope and new beginnings. Their bond had grown stronger through the trials of the previous months, the storms, the long hours of labor, and the quiet evenings spent talking, laughing, and sharing small victories. Clara had learned to trust Sam in ways she never thought possible, and Sam had shown her patience, understanding, and unwavering support. Their love had deepened naturally, built on respect, shared effort, and emotional honesty. Despite their closeness, one thought lingered in Clara's mind, one she hadn't dared voice until now. Even with Sam's reassurance about her infertility, the desire to have a child had never faded. She had grown accustomed to imagining a life with children, teaching them about the ranch, riding horses, and sharing the lessons her parents had taught her. But the reality of her condition had always made that dream feel impossible. She worried about sharing these thoughts with Sam, fearing disappointment or the possibility of conflict. Yet, she realized that keeping her dreams secret would only limit the life they could build together. One evening, as the sun set over the hills, Clara gathered the courage to speak. They sat on the porch of the barn, their feet resting on the wooden railing, enjoying the quiet hum of the ranch after a long day of work. Clara took a deep breath and said, "Sam, I know you've always said it doesn't matter, but I can't stop thinking about the possibility of having a family. I've dreamed of it for so long, even though the doctors said it wouldn't happen." Sam turned to her, his eyes soft and steady. He reached for her hand, holding it firmly. "Clara," he said, "I love you and I want whatever makes you happy. If that includes a family, we'll figure it out together. I promise you, we'll find a way." The sincerity in his voice, combined with his calm determination, filled Clara with a mixture of relief, hope, and joy. For the first time, she felt that the dream she had almost given up on might still be possible. They began exploring options together, speaking with doctors and researching every possible path. Clara underwent thorough medical examinations, and while the odds were still uncertain, there was a small but real possibility of conceiving. The process required patience, careful planning, and emotional strength. There were moments of frustration, anxiety, and disappointment, but through it all, Clara and Sam supported each other. Sam never pressured her, never made her feel inadequate, and never let fear overshadow hope. His steady presence became a source of comfort and strength, reinforcing the idea that love was not only about romance. It was about partnership, resilience, and shared dreams. Months passed, filled with routines that blended work, care, and anticipation. Clara continued managing the ranch, riding horses, tending to the livestock, and overseeing daily chores. Sam remained by her side, offering help when needed and quietly encouraging her in moments of doubt. They celebrated small victories together, the first green shoots of spring, a cow successfully giving birth, repairs completed without incident, and found joy in the ordinary rhythms of life. Yet underneath it all, a quiet hope began to grow, a hope that one day their shared dream of a family might become reality. Then, one bright morning, Clara noticed something unusual. She felt different, lighter, more energetic, and filled with an inexplicable sense of excitement. She hesitated at first, unsure if she was imagining things, but the feeling persisted. With Sam's encouragement, she decided to take a test, though her heart pounded with a mix of fear and hope. The result stunned her. She was pregnant. The news was almost unbelievable, a miracle she hadn't dared to hope for. She stared at the test in disbelief, then looked up at Sam, who had come into the room quietly. His eyes widened with surprise and then softened with joy. "Clara, is this real?" he asked, his voice trembling with emotion. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "It's real," she whispered. "We were going to have a child." The moment that followed was filled with laughter, tears, and quiet awe. They embraced, overwhelmed by the reality of what had happened. For years, Clara had feared that motherhood was impossible. Now, against all odds, the dream she had almost abandoned was coming true. Sam held her close, promising to be there every step of the way, and Clara felt a profound sense of gratitude, love, and hope. The following months brought new challenges and joys. Clara and Sam prepared for the arrival of their child, renovating part of the ranch to accommodate a nursery and gathering supplies with care. Clara continued to work, though she adjusted her routine to ensure rest and safety for herself and the baby. Sam took on additional responsibilities, making sure that she didn't overexert herself and that the ranch continued to operate smoothly. Their days were filled with a mix of excitement, preparation, and anticipation. As Clara's pregnancy progressed, the couple experienced moments of wonder and reflection. They imagined the life they would share with their child, the lessons they would teach, and the joy that would fill their home. Clara felt a new sense of purpose, one that extended beyond herself to the future she was helping create. Sam, too, found his perspective shifting, realizing that love and responsibility were intertwined, and that the life they were building together was richer and more meaningful than he had ever imagined. The town soon caught wind of the news. Neighbors who had watched Clara and Sam's relationship grow over the past year were both surprised and delighted. Many offered congratulations, gifts, and support, celebrating the couple's good fortune. For Clara, who had often felt different and out of place in her community, the reaction was both heartwarming and affirming. She realized that love, perseverance, and hope could inspire joy not only in their own lives, but also in the lives of those around them. Finally, the day arrived when Clara went into labor. Sam was by her side every step of the way, providing calm reassurance and steady support. The experience was intense, exhausting, and filled with moments of both fear and wonder. Yet throughout it all, Clara drew strength from Sam's presence, knowing that they had faced every challenge together. When their child was finally born, healthy and strong, the emotion in the room was overwhelming. Tears streamed down Clara's face as she held her baby, and Sam's voice trembled with joy as he whispered words of love and gratitude. In the days and weeks that followed, Clara and Sam settled into their new life as parents. The ranch continued to operate, with both of them adjusting to the demands of caring for a newborn, alongside their other responsibilities. The experience brought them even closer, deepening their partnership and teaching them new lessons about patience, resilience, and the power of love. Clara discovered a new dimension of herself, one shaped not only by strength and independence, but also by tenderness, nurturing, and the joy of motherhood. As the seasons changed once more, Clara reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. From the early years of feeling different and alone, to the fear and heartbreak of infertility, to the unexpected love and partnership with Sam, her life had been filled with challenges and triumphs. She realized that every struggle had taught her something valuable, shaping her into the person she had become. The miracle of their child was not just a gift, but a testament to resilience, hope, and the extraordinary possibilities that life could hold. Clara and Sam's story became one of quiet inspiration in their community. Neighbors admired the strength of their relationship, the way they worked together, and the joy they shared as a family. For Clara, the journey had been about more than love or motherhood. It had been about discovering the depth of her own courage, the power of trust, and the beauty of shared dreams. She had learned that even when life seemed impossible or uncertain, Hope and perseverance could open doors to experiences beyond imagination. Looking back, Clara understood that her life had been a series of challenges that ultimately led her to happiness she had once thought unattainable. She had faced fear, doubt, and heartbreak, yet she had also experienced love, support, and miraculous joy. With Sam by her side and their child in her arms, she felt a sense of completeness that had once seemed out of reach. Their journey had been neither easy nor predictable, but it had been real, and that reality was more beautiful than she could have imagined. In the quiet moments on the porch, watching the sun set over the ranch, Clara often reflected on the journey she had taken. She thought about the storms they had faced, both literal and emotional, and the moments of doubt and fear that had seemed insurmountable at the time. Yet she also thought about the love, patience, and partnership that had carried her through, and the miraculous gift of new life that had changed everything. She realized that true happiness was not about perfection, but about resilience, trust, and the courage to embrace life fully, with all its uncertainties and joys. In the end, Clara's story was one of hope, perseverance, and the extraordinary power of love. She had faced challenges that had once seemed impossible, discovered a connection that transformed her life, and experienced the miracle of motherhood against all odds. The journey had taught her that even when life feels uncertain, love, trust, and patience can create outcomes beyond what anyone could predict. And as she held her child in her arms with Sam smiling beside her, Clara knew that every step of the journey had been worth it, and that the future, though unknown, was filled with promise, joy, and endless possibility.